Hi, I'm Logan T. Smith, and welcome to my Patreon exclusive spoiler chat for Jojo Rabbit. As you may have noticed, I took the coat off. It was just getting too hot, and you can only look like the SS for so long before you start to get a little nervous. So as I said in the review, I really like Jojo Rabbit. 9 out of 10. Excellent movie. I think it's a first for this channel, movie that gets 9 out of 10. And I gotta tell you, I really like war movies, I guess. And Jojo Rabbit is a great, funny war movie. I like funny movies, I like war movies, and Jojo Rabbit is funny and a war movie. So, although it's not a war movie like Midway is a war movie, or Red Tails is a war movie, or Pearl Harbor is a war movie. It's really not. It's more like a movie that happens to take place during the war than a war movie. This movie's not about the war. It's about people that lived during the war rather than about anything that happened in the war. I really think it's a great movie that a lot of people should watch. It reminded me a little bit of, is it Look Who's Back? Or did I write it down on here what it's called? He's Back? Or I think it's Look Who's Back. Looks like I didn't write it down. But anyways, that's a movie about if Hitler, instead of dying, was teleported into the future. And I think it's supposed to take place in the early 2000s. And he just sort of like wakes up in Germany 60 years later or something. And it's pretty funny because he just goes on, he's confused in the new world with new things, but he just goes on saying the same kind of things that he said as Hitler in Germany did. And people think he's a comedian, and it's a pretty funny movie. I don't think it's translated into English. I think it just has English subtitles, but it was funny. I really liked it. And I think, Jojo Rabbit has some similarities in the way that it just sort of makes fun of Hitler and Nazis, really. But it does have that rather serious tone. And Look Who's Back also has a pretty serious tone as well. It sort of like comes off as a bit comedy, but at the same time it's like, we should take this kind of stuff pretty seriously. And I think that Jojo Rabbit does that too. I think the intro to this movie is so great. Now, my wife was not so sure at the beginning of this movie that if she was going to like it. She has some German heritage, and she thought she might be pretty offended by this movie. I love how it starts out, though, with Jojo and his friend Hitler psyching himself up for the Nazi youth camp, and he's Heil Hitler and practicing Heil Hitler. And then he's running down the street heiling people. He's like, Heil, 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 Heil. And he does like a plain heiling. Oh, man. To me, that was so choice. So, yeah, I really loved that beginning. As far as the flow of the movie goes, and I probably should have mentioned this in the review, which I didn't, is it does a great job of transitioning between comedic moments into serious moments and then back again. And, a lot of movies do a good job of it, but most movies aren't dealing with the extremes that this one has. You have the extreme of, Jojo doing the Heil plane as he runs through the streets. And eventually you have Jojo's mother's feet dangling behind him as she's hung in the street. Which was such a powerful moment. I almost said beautiful, but that's certainly not right. Like it from a, in my view, like a technical filmmaking moment, it's a beautiful moment. But as far as the story is concerned, it's super sad and brutal. So, so powerful is probably a better word for it than beautiful. It's also got some really... The movie has great foreshadowing to lead to that moment, and also does a great job of making it so that when you see those shoes, you know exactly what's going on. That there's no moment of, oh, what's happening here? You know the instant you see those shoes that that's his mom. Before he knows it. And I think that was also the right choice, to have us see it first, so that we are already in the moment when we get to see Jojo experience it. That moment probably is what takes this movie from like an 8 to a 9. That it just brings it all together, from being just sort of a funny movie about Nazis and Jews and their relationship, to a real story. It's not a true story because it's fiction, but a real story that just gives you the real goods, you know, that it doesn't it's the moment where you know this movie's not going to shy away from the crap to be able to just keep you laughing. It's not going to hide the bad part of this story. Now, there's a lot of worse things that happened in World War II in Germany and other parts of the world. But for this story, that's the worst part. And it doesn't shy away from it. And it tells it in such a heartfelt way, you know. It's really good. The relationship between Jojo and his mother, I think, is particularly interesting because it's not a great relationship. You know they love each other, but they also have some disdain for each other, in that his mother is not a Nazi. She's an anti-Nazi. She's putting out propaganda against Nazis. And Jojo is a Nazi and wants to be a Nazi, and he's into it. As he says, I love swastikas. So he's really into swastikas, I think is what he says. So he doesn't like the people that are putting out the anti-war propaganda, and she doesn't like the Nazis. And I think that makes that relationship even more real as well. I mean, I don't know that most families have disdain for each other, and they're certainly not most families are going to be in this situation. But most families aren't like 100% of the time, I love everything that you do. That's, of course, ridiculous. And this rather serious conflict between the two I think makes this so real. Like, it's just, I know I'm not being very succinct here, but I haven't said all this stuff out loud before. Yeah, it's just such I think, a fairly real relationship, because and obviously I wasn't in World War II. I haven't talked to people directly that lived with it. I haven't asked these kind of questions to anybody, but I'm sure there were families like that, where some people in the family were anti-war and were trying to promote anti-war sentiment, while others in the family were like Nazis, like into it. While a lot of people just, I'm sure also, didn't really know what was going on, the true horrors of what was happening in Germany at the time. Which is sort of going back to when Jojo sees Yorkie, where the humor really comes back into the movie after the death. And Yorkie's like, oh yeah, turns out Hitler was keeping some real bad stuff from everyone, keeping some real bad secrets. Yeah, it's sort of a funny little moment. It just sort of quickly addresses all that stuff without getting into it. It doesn't really need to get into it. Just a second. Sorry, I guess I wasn't clear enough that I was filming here. Yeah, there's a few little details that I thought were pretty cool, and some funny, just such sort of ridiculous things to say. So one that I noticed was when Jojo is dressed as a robot, collecting metal for the war or whatever. There's the nose on the robot is a little SS, which I thought was pretty funny. A nice little detail that seems like something that someone might have put on there. Although I really don't know. I think one of the neat things too is the way they use the soundtrack in Jojo Rabbit is they use pop music and they also use original score. And they use the pop music and the sort of the feeling that comes with pop music. So pop music, when it's in a movie, is a risk because people have an existing relationship with pop music before they come into the movie, which the filmmakers can't control. And some songs that lots of people love, some people are just going to hate. And so this may not have worked for everybody, but I think they actually did a really good job of taking the pre-existing relationships that people have with these songs and using those pre-existing relationships to help craft the flow of the emotion in the movie. I think they did a good job of that. And then, of course, they used the original score as well to do that when the pop music just isn't going to work. Pop music is generally used to lighten the mood of the movie. Also, there are two really funny lines I thought were from the camp leader guy who ends up being the leader of the office later. And he's got the patch on the one eye, or he's lost one eye. He doesn't actually have a patch, but he's lost one eye. And he says, "Can two-eyed people do this?" And he shoots a bunch of things. And it's like, well, obviously the answer to that is yes, two-eyed people can do that. And then when Jojo takes the grenade and blows himself up with it, he says, "Don't do that." Yeah, I thought those were some pretty funny lines. Those are both pretty early in the movie, but pretty funny. I also thought it was funny that Hitler keeps offering cigarettes to Jojo. That was funny, for sure. And Jojo was like, "I don't smoke, I'm 11. That said, there probably were 11-year-olds that smoked at the time. Oh yeah, and the ending of the movie is a happy ending that's been forged in sadness. So it's happy, but to get to that moment, a lot of bad stuff had to happen. And not bad stuff like many other movies do it, where it's like, yeah, it's bad, but it's really not that big a deal, or we knew this person was going to die all along, or yeah, that character died, but we didn't really care about them. You know, it's like, no, these were like legit sad moments in the movie, and they had to happen to make this movie happen, to make this ending happen, to really make the relationship between Jojo and I don't remember her name, but the girl in the wall, to make their relationship cure and solidify. It had to happen. And the ending would certainly have been significantly less meaningful had Jojo's mother survived. Yeah. Anyways, if you haven't watched it and you've watched this, I'm really sorry for you because I have spoiled the most meaningful parts of the movie for you. But this is a spoiler review, so you did it to yourself. But yeah, I think this is one that everyone should watch at some point. It's a really good one. And it's... I don't know how I'm going to feel about it in a decade, but I'm pretty sure I'm still going to love it. Thanks. Thanks for supporting me. Thanks for watching this channel. And I hope you have a better life than Jojo.